The world is changing, and so does change. But the mind has the potential to capture the changing world and make every change count. At Skillsmindset, the leading global skills, strategy and corporate development company, we believe that the mind has the potential of transforming the man from obscurity to prominence. It's the reason why we make skills our business. At Skillsmindset, we stand for change, for development and for success. We challenge, we inspire and we lead. With Skillsmindset, your limit is just the beginning. Welcome to Skillsmindset. For more information about the great service we provide, please visit our website on www.skillsmindset.com or give us a call on our UK number on 07957 676 193. Better still, send us an email on info@skillsmindset.com. Skills Mindset. Challenging limits, maximising opportunities.
Yes. Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the Skillsminset Masterclass. We call this one early February 2026. And it's good to be here again. The last time we were here was last year, December, where we talk on, very informative and a very important topic as well. But today we are here again to discuss very important, essential topic that will help you and help your business. So we are honored to welcome our distinguished guest speakers, valued viewers, and every participant joining us today. This masterclass marks the beginning of a powerful learning journey this year. One centered on practical skills, transformative mindsets, and meaningful impact. So thank you for being part of this inaugural 2026 edition. We are looking forward to rich insights, engaging conversations, and outcomes that translate into real-world growth. So welcome and let's begin. So everybody, welcome. Please let us know where you are joining us from, on what platform you are joining us. It will be great and very interesting if you can just put in your name, the city and the country you are joining from, so that we can acknowledge you and we will really appreciate you, because that helps us to know that we are engaging or you're engaging with us. And then, of course, you can throw in your questions or your contributions, because we are also participating in this. We are all together, even though we have the lead speakers. That does not exclude you from contributing your viewpoints and, of course, sharing your expertise and your intellect. So thank you as you join us this moment, and of course, ready to be involved. So whether you are joining us live or watching the replay, which of course many people would do, we're excited to have you with us for another transformative session. Please let us know again where you're joining from. And I'm not sure people. Yes, thank you so much. Oluwa or something. Good evening. I'm joining from London. You're welcome. Larry joining from Hull in UK. You're welcome. Good to see you here. People joining from Facebook. Some are joining from YouTube, and of course from LinkedIn. So we are on these platforms, or this platform live, and we'll be thrilled to have you sharing your location and of course your name with us, where you're joining from. So today marks a new beginning as we'll explore the Power Mind results together, guided by experienced experts. This is a fantastic opportunity for skills development, business advancement, professional growth, and leadership. So our discussion today focuses on building a cyber risk aware culture, why it matters for small businesses. And so it's very important that you are part of this, as the nugget and experience they will be sharing, and for some tips they will be sharing, will be very helpful for you and for your business as well. At least raising your consciousness into spurring into taking some actions. So we will delve into strategies designed to boost quality product and service deliveries, shifting value creation from reactive to proactive protection. So this session is tailored for businesses, growth leaders, willing to make cybersecurity a business enabler and differentiator, creating a significant impact. And it's so crucial, as you'll be hearing from our guest speakers, why this is very important, particularly at this time where technology, a lot of devices and creativity in the technology area is really opening up some concerns on security concerns. And of course, what are your roles in all this? What do you need to be aware of, and what do you need to do? So it's very important that you protect yourself, you protect your business, and you protect your client. So we're joined today by highly skilled professionals in cybersecurity, business, and strategic operations, Mr. Babatunde Falode and Mr. Bolaji Ajayi. You are both welcome. I know you've been here before, and I'm happy that you are back here at this Skillsminset Masterclass. So you are welcome, sirs.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. So as co-founders of Maya Tech Consulting, a cybersecurity consulting and training organization, they both have extensive backgrounds in both business and data security. Their mission, though, is to guide individuals towards successful careers in cybersecurity. And I'm not going to be talking about your profile today or your professionalism. I'm going to leave that with you, because I believe you must have added some feathers to your cap since the last time I did the introduction. And not necessarily to exclude whatever you are doing, but just to appreciate from you what exactly it is that you are doing at this moment, and of course what value you are creating in this space, in the cybersecurity space, to ensure that people and their businesses can be protected, and of course they should be aware of what is going on. So we are pleased to welcome Mr. Bolaji and Mr. Babatunde to this Skillsminset Masterclass. So while we settle in, I'm going to be asking Mr. Babatunde and Mr. Bolaji to share more about themselves, their current projects, and of course their expertise as we settle in. So people keep coming in. Tell us where you're joining in from, your name, your city, and the country, while Mr. Babatunde Falode and Mr. Bolaji Ajayi give us some backgrounds, and of course to the work they are doing, and of course the current project they are running. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm happy to be back here. It's always pleasant for us to be here. I can't talk about Bolaji, but I'll talk about myself. It's always pleasant for us to come here, and it's always a pleasure. So, as you've alluded, my name is Babatunde Falode. I'm a cybersecurity professional with a lot of experience behind my back. I help organizations, predominantly in the UK financial sector. As a security architect, I ensure that any solutions that they propose or implement is secure, using the principles of cybersecurity. My role within the organization is to ensure that they keep their precious data secure. We lock out the bad guys, and making sure that all the doings and the activities of the organization aligned with the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Again, like I work in the city of London, I also have co-found a business with my my business partner and friend of over 35 years. We co-founded Tech Academy. Tech Academy is a consulting firm, and a spin-off of that, we offer training to aspiring cybersecurity professionals. We help get professionals into the industry. But I'll talk on the consulting arm. We help medium and small size business to ensure that the cybersecurity posture remains robust, to fend off adversaries and cybersecurity, and to protect their valuable asset. And that is why the topic we're going to be discussing today is of utmost importance to us, because you'll find out that small businesses are not really, in our view and experience, don't carry that risk approach to cybersecurity for a number of reasons you will find out in the course of our presentation. If you leave me, I'll talk till tomorrow, so I'll stop here. I'll just end to say that I'm passionate about teaching, and my personal goal is to lead as many people into the world of cybersecurity as possible. So I'll hand over to my business partner and friend, Bolaji Ajayi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before Mr. Bolaji, I just want to acknowledge, sorry, Mr. Bolaji, I just want to acknowledge people, some people joining from YouTube, they've been able to indicate, Kenny Ashiro from YouTube, Larry from YouTube, just a few other ones. And on LinkedIn, yes, we have people joining from LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So yes, please get ready. We are in for a great time. Dari from UK, from SS joining from YouTube as well. A lot of people are known to YouTube, but Anthony, my partner, is also joining from YouTube. Looking forward to your approach to cyber risk awareness for small businesses. Some people are consultants for small businesses, so they want to see what they can gain from you and then add that to their service delivery. Mr. Bolaji, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Lawal. So I was just going to send you a private message that you need to get Tunde off, because if you leave him on for too long, he can talk forever. But anyway, here I am. So thank you for the opportunity to come back to share our knowledge on your platform again, which we very much appreciate. So I'm going to start with a very introduction of myself. So my name, as you've alluded to, is Bolaji Ajayi. I have been in the cybersecurity space for well over 25 years. Started off as a technical cybersecurity professional, but I got a bit tired, or maybe lazy is the right word, with the challenges that technology threw us these days. So I opted for the easiest route to remain in cybersecurity, which is what we refer to as governance, risk, and compliance. Not by any means technical, but equally as important in the cybersecurity space. So the likes of Tunde's of this world, the folks that go out there and ensure that we have secure solutions, but we need governance around those solutions. We need strategies to be built that will then drive the solutions that are implemented, that will ultimately help organizations protect their assets. And that's what cybersecurity is all about, helping organizations protect their assets. So that's where I come in. I work in the financial sector predominantly as well, like Tunde does. Passionate about teaching, which is what has led to myself and Tunde. Tunde referred to the fact that we've been friends for close to 4 decades. We found out that we somehow didn't realize that we were both training separately, but we had a discussion one day, kind of realized that we were doing the same thing, and we thought it will be beneficial, not just to us as individuals, but to the people that will eventually tutor if we joined our forces together. And that's what gave birth to the training academy, which of course then spun up into the consulting arm that Tunde refers to. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the business itself, because I think Tunde has given a good intro to the business. And we'll have a couple of slides at the end of the session, which kind of dive into what we offer as a business. So at this point, I will keep quiet and hand over back to you, Dr. Lawal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's spot on. And thank you for refreshing our memory as to your expertise, and of course the brief background as to how your business, developed from. And it's a great and very impressive approach to how you are now providing protection and security for businesses and for people. More importantly, putting resources together makes it even fantastic. So we have people joining from Somerset, some from London, or YouTube people are joining. YouTube, I think YouTube is taking the lead today, followed by Facebook and then LinkedIn. Yeah, but I know a lot of people are still going to join us while we continue. So today we know what we are going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about building a cyber risk aware culture, why it matters to small businesses. And I know that from what you've said, cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem. It's a people problem as well. And I think that's where this is very important. So it's not a corporate thing or an entirely corporate. It's also about people, because small businesses are increasingly targeted by cyber criminals because maybe limited resources, informal processes, and low awareness that creates easy entry points. So you will learn. So today, we want our participants, our viewers, and people listening to be prepared as they prepare to learn practical, people-focused strategies to embed cybersecurity awareness into their everyday operations. So without wasting time or further ado, I want us to warmly welcome Mr. Babatunde and Mr. Bolaji for their presentation. So over to you, sirs.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to run through?
Yes, today you kick off.
Okay, so I can't actually see. I can see the slide, but okay. All right, let me. Yes. Thank you. So so this is the way we. Good evening, everyone. I just hope you enjoyed today's session. That's the plan. We want to make it as interactive as possible. I know you don't have access to it directly, but I guess we have ways you can ask questions, and we would encourage that this evening. We want to share our experience with you. So we've got an agenda. We're going to be flexible with the agenda, make it as interactive as possible through Doctor, who will then on your behalf pose our questions to us. So introduction, we've pretty much gone through the introduction. So we'll go through introduction. And then, of course, the subject that we want to talk about here is what is a risk-aware culture? What is it? So we'll go through that. And then why small businesses are prime target. From experience, we know for a number of reasons that small businesses have been at the receiving end of this cyber attack. And it's clear that a risk awareness culture may not be present, and we will look at how and why small businesses are prime targets. Of course, what are the reality? So common small, medium business cyber incidents would bring that home. The cost of poor cyber culture, again, we'll be looking into that. And of course, we then move towards the end where we will talk to you about Masterclass Academy, particularly our consulting arm, what we do in this space of helping small business, a medium-sized business, how we can be of help to anyone trying to, maybe they haven't got the necessary fund to get a cybersecurity professional in, how we can help you hear about that. And of course, the session will be open for question and answer. So introduction has been done, so I won't dwell too much on that. I've got my name there, the few letters that we're so much proud of. That is our certification, and that is our badge. CISSP is a well sought after certification, so is CCSP. I have got one since the last time, which is SEMA, and then of course I've got a master's. So those are things that are well sought after in the industry. I work in the cybersecurity space, as you know, and my passion lies in teaching. My friend and professional colleague and business partner, Bolaji Ajayi, you can see the acronyms behind, if you like, his name, CISSP, C-Risk, and he's got a master's as well. A very experienced GRC consultant, currently continue work with business organization, mainly in the financial services. He's also passionate about teaching, and we've combined our strength to get so many people into the world of cybersecurity. So that is us. I'd hand over Bolaji to start by doing the topic justice. So over to you, Bolaji. Thank you.
Thank you, Tunde. Thank you. So once again, welcome to a warm welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining this session this evening. So the question is, what is a cyber risk aware culture? And that's what we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about today. And we have a very simple definition. And the way we like to define a cyber risk aware culture is one where everyone within an organization sees it as their responsibility to ensure that the organization remains secure. And when we talk about security, we're talking about cybersecurity. So what does this mean in practice? It is an environment where every employee within the organization has a good understanding of what cybersecurity or cyber risks look like in their day-to-day activities, right? So I, as an employee within an organization, if the organization I work in has a very good cyber risk aware culture, then naturally I will understand what my role or what my responsibilities are in trying to ensure that the organization remains secure and remains protected from threats that come from mainly from the internet. Of course, we cannot rule out the fact that we have threats that are usually propagated from within the organization. Those need to be taken into account as well. Again, from a cyber risk aware culture, one of the key things that you'd expect is where, as part of normal business, security is something that is not shied away from. So everybody within the organization understands that for our business to succeed, cybersecurity is a must. It's non-negotiable, it's non-debatable. Cybersecurity has to be part of normal business operations. The third bullet point there refers to people. I know Dr. Lawal mentioned people as part of introduction. Now, one thing that we see, and I'm sure we have one or two slides that touch upon this as we go along, but one thing that we always say is that you can have the best all singing, all dancing technology implemented to protect an organization from the threats that come from the internet or even internally. But we human beings are usually the weakest link in that big chain, right? And so if you have the latest and the greatest in terms of cybersecurity technologies implemented, and your users are not aware of what threats look like, or they're not aware of how to respond to those threats when they become active, then it becomes all the money spent on those technologies become a complete waste of time and a waste of money. And so when we talk about a cyber risk aware culture, we're talking about one where the people, the employees within the organization have a thorough understanding, or at least a decent understanding of what threats look like. and when those threats arise, how they need to respond to those threats. Finally, on this slide, so we say risk awareness is embedded in decision making. Now, every organization at some point during the entire life of that organization will have to make some sort of risk-based decisions, right? Risk itself is not a bad thing, but it needs to be managed. So we say organizations would normally take risks to achieve their objectives. What is bad is when an organization doesn't understand what their risk appetite is, or when they exceed that appetite over and beyond what is acceptable. That is what can potentially lead to an issue. So as part of decision making, an organization that has a very robust cyber risk aware culture, right, will have risk awareness embedded not just into their decision making, but into their overall way of working, their overall way of operating. So this slide hopefully has helped provide some insight into what we refer to as a culture, a cyber risk aware culture. Okay. And invariably, what we're trying to say is the cyber risk aware culture is one that exists in an organization that has an understanding of what risks are out there, how to respond to them, and ultimately ensuring that everybody within the organization understands that cybersecurity is not a responsibility of some remote IT department. It is everyone's responsibility. And that, in a nutshell, is what a cyber risk aware culture is. Okay, moving on very quickly. Again, Dr. Lawal kind of touched upon it very briefly. Why small businesses are prime targets. Small businesses will always be prime targets because attackers will always look for the easiest route into an organization, the easiest route to steal assets or to cause disruption to an organization's operations, right? And so when you hear about a lot of breaches that have happened recently, especially when these breaches have happened to the larger organizations, what you normally find out is that in some cases, not in all cases, right? In some cases, the route to that breach would have happened through the compromise of a small organization that has some sort of relationship with this big organization. And this is where we talk about third-party risk. So, and I'm going to use a couple of scenarios that have happened recently. So let's talk about Marks and Spencer's, or Harrods, or Land Rover, Jaguar. Some of the I guess the mainstream large UK corporations that were breached last year. And this is something that was widely publicized on all the major news platforms. So this is not something that we're making up. What you then find is that a lot of those breaches happened as a result of breaches to third parties that had engagements with these organizations. And that is why attackers would usually target the organizations that have the weakest defenses. Now, let me use an analogy. If you live on a street of, say, 20 houses, and you have somebody walking, an intended burglar walking along the street, trying the door handles to every single house, what they'll be looking for will be an opportunity to break into a house that has maybe one of the houses that hasn't had their front door locked. So a guy walks along the street, gets to the first house, tries the door handle, it's locked. He's not going to spend time trying to figure out how to break that lock, right? You'll be thinking, well, surely there must be one or two houses along this street that hopefully wouldn't have locked their front door. And this person will go along until they hopefully get to one of those front doors that wasn't locked, that they can easily open and go into their house. And that is exactly what we're referring to here. So, and that's what that first statement refers to. Attackers will go where the defenses are usually the weakest. Now, we know that with small to medium-sized businesses, these type of organizations would not normally have the kind of funds available that the larger corporations would have, which means that the amount of security controls that they would implement would not be as stringent or robust as what you'd expect, right? In most cases, these small to medium-sized businesses would not have the kind of budgets that would then mean they can go to market and spend on the latest and the greatest cybersecurity technologies. One of the things that you find, of course, with these small to medium-sized businesses is that they will not normally have dedicated cybersecurity staff. So they'll have one guy who works in IT, and that guy or a couple of people who work in IT, and these people will be responsible for everything that is IT related, including cybersecurity. And that can become a bit of a challenge sometimes. So an organization that hasn't got the funds available and hasn't got the expertise from a cybersecurity perspective would usually be one that our attackers would normally go after, because there's a strong possibility and a strong chance that they will be able to break into that organization's defenses and, of course, and steal their assets or cause disruption. And that last bullet point I kind of touched upon already, as where we say supply chain entry point into large organizations. And the example of Marks and Spencer's, Jaguar Land Rover, Harrods, even the Co-op, and these are some of the big ones, the high-profile ones that happened last year. These are the things that happened. The smaller organizations that have third-party relationships with these large organizations are the ones that these cyber criminals will usually target, and then use them as an entry point into the large organizations, where, of course, they can cause untold amounts of havoc, data breaches, and, of course, exfiltration of sensitive data. At this point, I'll hand over to Tunde. I'll catch my breath, get a sip of water, and I'll let Tunde take over from this point.
Thanks, Bolaji. Now, to talk about SMB cyber incidents, I just want to tell you a bit of a story. We had a consultancy work that we carried out, I think, a couple of weeks. So we're having a discussion with the client, and we're basically looking at the risk, helping to identify the risk that they have, as you would do. And we then identified that most of the risks that they were looking at are just a business enterprise risk. And then there was no identification of any cyber risk at all. Now, from experience, is either they are so good that there's no vulnerability within their system technology for them not to have identified any cyber risk, or maybe they've not even considered cyber risk. Now, from that assessment, it's clear that they've never considered cyber risk. And that is an example of organization that is not risk aware, right? There is no process in place to identify a cyber risk. Now, when we say a cyber risk, let's talk about broad risk assessment. A risk in the cyber world is a likelihood of occurrence of an event, maybe a threat actor exploiting a vulnerability, and that results in a risk situation. So what this organization is telling me from that discussion is they've not identified any threat at all. Now, that can't be right. That is an example of an organization that is not risk aware. And I guess that is why, maybe that's why they got us in the first place. So my point is this: any organization, one of the key things is they need to be thinking about their people, their process, and the technology. Now, the people, if you ask me, the most important thing when you are looking at an organization from a risk perspective. One, you need your people to understand risk, right? What is risk? So if someone, for example, sees an email, right? If that employee does not have the concept of risk, then they will just open that email, right? But if they have a culture where a risk is free flowing, everybody understand that, then you need to understand that there is consequence for any of their action, and that consequence might lead to a threat exposure to that organization. So my point is, most breaches start with a human action. That's where it starts from. In actual fact, you may argue that if humans, you are able to void human of the vulnerabilities, of their vulnerabilities, of their action, we can all go home, organization can all go home to sleep, because threat actors know that humans are the weakest link. And if you go back and forth and you go to all the attacks that we've had in the last year or two, you'll find out that phishing, maybe someone have clicked on an email and they've divulged information that they shouldn't divulge, maybe their credentials, and the threat actors have exploited that vulnerability and gone up to do damage to the organization. So phishing and business email compromise will be rampant in an organization where they don't have a risk-based culture. Ransomware attack. Now, again, you can put every technology in place. You can spend so much on it. But if your employee clicks on that email, falls for that bait, they have inadvertently invited the threat actors to come in and attack their data, encrypt all their data. So you'll find that ransomware attack, okay, are common, if you like, examples of or incidents. And of course, we're not under the illusion that a small business that only this affects. The difference between a small business, as you'll find out later, and an established enterprise organization is the enterprise organization have got loads of resources. They've got a lot of money. They can, if you like, spend a lot of money on technology. But the small business, particularly in this current climate, are just striving to survive in this hostile climate. And cyber attack or cyber protection may be the least of their worries. And that is evident in the example that I gave you, where the organization have not been able to identify any cyber risk. Data breaches via third-party application. So again, that is key. You find out that a lot of data breaches have happened either by third-party application, third-party apps. They've not done their due diligence. We would say, in the world of cybersecurity, you need to carry out a third-party risk assessment. You need to assess your third party, try and identify any threats they have and any threats they can bring into your own organization, because the moment you engage business with a third party, you have increased your attack surface. So for small businesses, data breaches via third party is common. Credential surfing from leaked password, again, these are reality in an organization. And I would say, in an organization, in a small party that does not practice any sense of risk management, identifying risk, looking at the likelihood of occurrence, training their staff, identify that staff would be the weakest link. So these are the real, if you like, the common incidents, the cyber incidents emanating from a lack of risk awareness. And an organization that is mature should have a risk management program. And that risk management program would help them, not only help them, help the staff. In this case, he had the human action to make them security aware. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'll take this one. Now, what is the repercussion, if you like, of poor cyber risk aware culture? So if an organization has not been able to imbibe that risk culture amongst its staff, either in the technology they use or process, then the impact goes beyond IT. Financial loss. The financial loss can bring down a business, particularly a small to medium-sized business. There's one, I think last year, and I'd see if I can get the details. An organization, they disappeared into the thin air after a cyber attack because they just couldn't. They suffered from a ransomware. They could not afford to pay the ransom that was demanded of them. So that it led to the demise of the organization. Okay. Operational disruption. So if you have an attack and you've not identified, you've not imbibed a risk culture, and going back, the reason why you want to imbibe a risk culture really is because we always say this in cybersecurity. No organization have endless tons of money. So they have to prioritize their resources in line with what their business goals and objective. And that is why you have your risk tolerance. And Bolaji did mention that the risk tolerance is the amount of risk the organization is willing to take in pursuit of their goals and objective. So, and that is why you have to prioritize having a risk-based approach. Now, if you don't do that, then a little attack might lead into operational disruption. Of course, legal and regulatory exposure. You can imagine a law firm, and I'll use a law firm as an example, and the way a law firm as an example is you can imagine the damage that can occur if an organization, a law firm, loses details of their clients or the case they've handled in the last 2-3 years, right? They may, be open to regulatory and legal challenges, whether their customer data has ended up in the public domain or in the dark web, as we call them. So the impact goes beyond IT. It leads into legal and regulatory exposure, and of course, loss of customer trust. I think about 10 years ago, thereabout, when there's one of these provider, I can't remember what they're called now, where it will come to me. They hacked their system. I took my account away from them straight away. I went somewhere else, and I'm sure I won't be the only one, and I will never go back to them. That's a loss, or that's the impact of a poor cyber risk awareness culture. You can easily overnight lose the trust of the customer. The customer then trusts you with their data, that entrusts you with their asset. And of course, finally, reputational damage. Now, the cost of reputational damage, if you were to put a value of that, right, it can even go beyond financial loss. Because if an organization has been damaged by either a breach, then the reputational damage can go on for a very, very long time. Bolaji, you want to take the next one? Thank you.
Yes, before I go on to the next one, I just wanted to add on to what you said. So when you spoke about financial loss, and I think you were trying to refer to a company, there was a logistic firm last year that has been in operation for 160 years. that suffered a ransomware attack. And that ransomware, and I think that's the company you were referring to today. That company went bust because they couldn't afford to pay the ransom. So 160-year-old firm, somewhere in, I think it was in Kettering, is where they operate from. They went bust, and that completely led to the demise of the organization. And this is as a result of a company that had a poor cyber risk culture. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So what does a strong cyber risk aware culture look like? Now, we've spoken about the need for organizations to have security technology in place, right? And it is not, it won't be amiss to say that organizations must have policies, proper security policies and standards in place. But what we then tend to find out is that a lot of these companies have these policies that sit on a shelf somewhere gathering dust, and we refer to them as paperware or shelfware. That's because these policies and these standards haven't really been publicized to the extent that employees within the organization have a thorough understanding of not just the existence of those policies, but what those policies represent. And ultimately, right, an organization that has a very good culture from a cyber risk aware perspective will not just rely on technology and policies, but will be ensuring that the culture from a cybersecurity perspective is heavily imbibed and embedded into their way of working. And that's what would lead to that strong cyber risk aware culture that we've been talking about, right? So there are a number of things that you'd expect to see in an organization that has a cyber risk aware culture, a strong cyber risk aware culture. The very first thing is that the leaders in that organization will be singing about that culture from the rooftop. They know what a cyber risk aware culture looks like, and they will be the ones that will be championing that culture. You know, there's a saying that says, follow the leader. Now, if you work for an organization where the leaders in that organization do not take cybersecurity seriously, but they're trying to tell you, the employees, a different story, then of course it's never going to fly. And I'll tell you a true story. I used to work somewhere where we had these quarterly phishing campaigns, right? So every quarter we'll send phishing simulation. So we'll send phishing type emails to our employees who have been trained to identify these type of emails. And the objective is to find out how many of these users, if any of them, will fall for that email. So within that email, there'll be two things. There will be a link that they will be urged to click on. And of course, there'll be an attachment that they will be pushed to download. And of course, the users that fall for that trick will then be enrolled in additional cybersecurity training, right? So within this organization, what then happened was we sent this email to some of the senior leadership in the organization. And a large percentage of these senior leaders fell for it. They either clicked on the link or downloaded the attachment that was in the email. And of course, when we flagged it to them to say, hey, listen, you failed the test and you need to be enrolled, the very first thing one of them said was, well, you should have told us that you were going to send this email. And of course, that completely defeats the purpose, because our attackers, our bad guys, our adversaries, whatever you want to call them, will not send a notification ahead of such an email before they send it to the senior executive or the senior leadership team within the organization. And so that, to me, says that kind of organization does not have a strong culture. And that really shows that if that organization were to suffer a breach, you know, it starts right from the top. A lot of these attackers would typically target senior leaders within an organization. And that previous slide that Tunde kind of spoke about business email compromise, BEC. That's exactly what it is. You know, it targets, those phishing emails are specifically crafted to target specific individuals within an organization. And they craft those emails to look so authentic, so genuine, that unless the individual that is receiving that email is fully aware, they will easily fall for those emails, right? And so one of the very first things that you'd expect to see in an organization that has a very strong cyber risk-aware culture is that the leaders model that secure behavior. It's very, very important. Now, Tunde spoke about risk management and the need for risk management. And Tunde has kind of defined what risk management is, so I'm not going to dwell on that at all. But it goes without saying that for an organization to have a strong cyber risk-aware culture, they must have a robust risk management program in place. Very simple. Your risk management program is a program that will help identify risks to the organization. That program will ensure that when risks have been identified, those risks are assessed, they are treated appropriately. And of course, we all know that risk can never be fully eradicated, right? So when those risks have been treated, there will be an element of what we refer to as residual risk. Those residual risks will then need to be managed accordingly. Now, why do we need to manage those risks? We need to manage them because if, say, we've identified the risk, it's been treated, but the residual risk now says it's a low risk, there's a likelihood that if care is not taken, that low risk can then can change into a medium, even a high risk, because of a number of reasons. One, the control that was implemented to help address that risk in the first place is no longer effective, or it might be the case of the threat landscape changing completely, which then means that the controls that were implemented are no longer effective. So risk management will always play a very crucial part in an organization that has a strong risk-aware culture. Staff training and awareness. So Tunde has spoken about this to a certain extent, and I've spoken about it already. Where an organization does not prioritize staff training and awareness, such an organization's employees will find it very difficult to know what a phishing email looks like. And if that is the case, then they will easily fall for a phishing email. And what will happen is when such an email comes in, they click on a dodgy link. That's one action can expose the organization to untold amounts of harm. Ransomware being one of the very, very main and popular ones that happens these days. So a user innocently clicks on the link. By doing so, they've opened the gates to hell. The attackers take advantage. They deploy their ransomware and they lock down the organization's infrastructure, which of course now means the organization has to pay, usually in cryptocurrency, before they can gain access to their systems. One of the very important indicators of an organization that has a strong risk-aware culture is the ability for employees to report incidents. And now, what do we mean by this? I've just spoken about phishing and the potential for employees to click on a link in a phishing email that has been received. Now, if within the organization, we've made it very clear that when an incident happens, please feel free, as soon as you understand that this is an incident, report it to the appropriate team within the organization. Don't be scared about what will happen subsequently. The main priority for the organization at that point will be to understand that an incident has happened and they can manage it immediately. So where an organization has evangelized that message that incidents will always happen, but what we're asking you to do is report those incidents without any fear of reprimand or any form of repercussion. Please do so as soon as you understand that an incident happens. Where such a policy exists and employees take it upon themselves to report incidents when they happen, then automatically such an incident will be able to address such an incident in double quick time. And that, of course, is one of the key indicators of an organization having a strong culture from a cybersecurity perspective. And of course, it goes without saying, that last bullet point is one of my very favorites, because like I said at the beginning, I am a GRC, a governance, risk and compliance professional, and this is what we do. We help ensure that organizations have secure policies, they have secure security policies, they have standards, they have guidelines, they have procedures. These are some of the things that we help our clients develop, especially the small to medium-sized businesses. So where an organization has a strong culture, not only will they have established security policies, security standards, procedures, and guidelines, but they would have published them. They would have trained their users on not just on the existence of these policies, but understanding these policies and how to interpret these policies. All of these factors, where these factors exist within an organization, we can easily point to the fact that this organization has a very strong cyber risk aware culture. Okay. Moving on to the next slide, I'll take this one and I'll hand over to Tunde. So along the same lines of what I've just said on the previous slide, especially when it comes to the role that leadership has to play in this whole thing. I think that first bullet point I've kind of spoken about already. So you'd expect the tone to be set right from the top. If the leadership within the organization, the senior leadership, the executive team, whatever you want to call them, right? If they consistently and continually demonstrate their understanding and their role in ensuring that a cyber risk aware culture is in existence within the organization, then I'm sure it will be easy for everyone else in the organization to follow their footsteps, right? So the guys at the top of the organization say, this is what we do from a cybersecurity perspective. I don't think anybody within the organization will be able to go in a completely different direction. And that's why the role that leadership play in this whole cybersecurity gig is very important. When we talk about policies, especially policies, and of course, we need to understand that there are a number of policies, but the highest ranking policy within an organization is the one that we call the security policy, information security policy. That security policy is usually approved and endorsed by the senior leadership team within the organization. Now, in an organization that has a very rich culture from a cyber perspective, that policy will not only be endorsed by the senior leadership team, but it will be published, and you'll see the stamp of approval on it. And it basically says, in this organization, this is what we do from a cybersecurity perspective. And that one policy will then give birth to multiple policies, which of course will lead into your standards, and then of course your procedures and your guidelines. So if the senior leadership team in the organization has said, this is how we do security, this is what security means to us, this is how we intend to run our security shop, then no one else will have the audacity to fall out of line. And that's why the leadership team has to be seen to be driving this, setting the tone from the top. Now, going back maybe 20 years ago, right? Cyber risk wasn't deemed to be a problem of the leadership team. It used to be a problem of the IT department. The senior leadership team within an organization were only really interested in financial risk, operational risk. But as time has gone on, as the years have rolled by, especially when there have been a lot of laws and regulations, that means that where an organization suffers a data breach, right? And of course, when we talk about a data breach, we're talking about attackers or your adversaries stealing personal data. So your credit card information, your email addresses, your date of birth, your personal information that you've entrusted to an organization. Where such information has been stolen from an organization, that problem is now the senior leadership's problem. It's no longer an IT problem. No longer can the senior leadership team look to hang one of the IT guys out to dry and say it was his problem, fire him. Everything's the buck stops at the senior leadership's footsteps. Okay, so now any organization that is worth their salt would know that cyber risk is not just any other risk, it's a business risk for a number of reasons. Tunde spoke about the implications of not having a good cyber risk culture. He spoke about operational disruption. He spoke about data breaches. This is exactly what we're talking about here. As if an organization were to suffer a data breach today, and you can ask the Marks and Spencers of this world, it took them, it cost them a lot of money from lost revenue, and then of course the money that they've had to spend to try and get the operations back to the way the operations were before the breach. That is why cyber risk is now a business risk and should be taken very seriously by the leadership team. And so any leader within an organization that has a good understanding of what the role is, we know that a cyber risk culture, a very strong cyber risk culture is one that sits within their remit. Awareness and training, we've spoken about already, but it goes without saying that every organization must invest in their staff. I've said this before, and I'm sure this won't be the last time I'm going to say this, that it is very important for the employees within an organization to have a thorough understanding of the risks or the type of risks that exist out there and how they should protect themselves from those risks. And of course, when that dodgy looking phishing email comes in, that they know what needs to be done to ensure that they do not expose the organization to the threats and the risks that are out there. Now, when incidents happen, and incidents will always happen, so there is no organization that can stand up and say that they're 100% secure by virtue of the technologies that they've implemented. So incidents will happen, and it's not a case of when, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. And that's why it's important that employees within an organization are encouraged to report incidents as soon as they become aware of them. Now, if I am an employee and I like using phishing as an example, because that's one of the main ways by which our threat actors manage to gain access to organizations' assets, unauthorized access, I should say. If I were to click on the link in a phishing email that came into my inbox, and as soon as I click on the link, I then realize that I've done something wrong. Immediately, I should feel in a position where I should go and report this to the potentially the cybersecurity function or whatever function I need to report it to immediately, without thinking of the fact that I might get the blame for the consequences of my actions eventually, right? So where in an organization that has a robust cyber risk aware culture, the leadership team will be making every employee aware of the fact that we need you to report an incident and you will not be blamed, right? Very, very important, because if an employee is under the illusion that they will be blamed for what they did, which has led to the cyber attack being successful, they won't report it, hoping that it's going to blow away or they can sweep it under the carpet. And that's why it's very important that leadership make it very clear to employees within the organization that here, there's no blame culture, right? As soon as we identify things, we report them. And that is the only thing that can keep us secure from the threats, that's the menace that is out there, the menace of ransomware, the menace of phishing, the menace of any type of cyber attack. That's what will keep us safe from all these attacks. Okay, I will hand over to Tunde at this point to talk about some of the biggest mistakes that small to medium-sized business usually make, which of course lead to cyber attacks, successful cyber attacks. Over to you,
thanks, Bolaji. So this section here, I would like to back it up with our experience at Manatech Academy. We do quite a few consultancy for small companies, small to medium-sized companies. So we have law firms, in our book, accountants that we deal with. And one of the things that is common across board are the things that we've listed on here. And the reasons for that, maybe because of the size, maybe because they just think they're too small. And these are the kind of things that that we've put on here as what we find on ground from our experience. Now, let me take 2 steps back, and I use ourselves when we train our students, and Bolaji would confirm this. One of the questions when we do their mock interview, one of the questions we ask them to ask the potential employer is, what is your organization risk culture like? And it's a question I want everyone to take away tonight. If you have an opportunity to speak to, it doesn't even have to be small business, any organization, maybe you're having a conversation with them, it'd be interesting to know what their risk culture is, right? Because their risk culture, they might be risk averse. So reluctant to take risk. And we've said this before, particularly when you're looking at cyber, right? The cyber risk is always the likelihood of occurrence of an event and the impact it has on the business. So an organization that is not risk aware is not carrying out what we call that risk assessment to look at the likelihood of occurrence. And again, the biggest cultural mistake for small businesses is the fact that they think they're too small to be hacked. And that's a myth. That's a myth, because the reason why it's a myth is this. Sometimes the adversaries see them as low-hanging fruit. Their defenses are down. It's very easy, right? It's very easy. Probably they don't have a monitoring system, network monitoring system. They don't have effective access control. They don't have all this technology that the big companies would have. And of course, it costs money, right? It costs money. And sometimes the difference between that protection and having no protection may be engaging with a small company like us and say, come and help us identify our cybersecurity posture. Can you help determine our maturity, right? But of course, we find that they feel they're too small to be hacked. And the truth is this: no organization is too small to be hacked. Reason being, the adversaries may see them as a low-hanging fruit. They may see, just for bragging rights, the new kids of the block might use them as their playing ground to test their new skills that they've acquired. Let me just go to this website. Maybe that website has never been patched. Vulnerability have never been checked on that website. They go in there and attack them. So please, a medium-sized business, the truth is they're not too small to be hacked. The other point is blaming employees for mistake. Again, this may, and we find that may be the level of maturity when you look at an organization's maturity when it comes to cybersecurity. You find out that any organization that is risk aware, one of the telltale signs of a mature organization is a lack of blame culture. And that's what Bolaji did mention. Be confident enough to go out and say, this has happened. Be confident enough to say, this risk here, I'm going to own it, or we're going to treat that risk, right? You have an organization that is not mature, everyone will be running away from owning that risk. Now, if they're scared of owning the risk, then they will be very scared of even identifying the risk, right? Because at the end of the day, no one wants to get blamed. So, and there's nothing wrong, right, in you doing something wrong and then fixing it. But if people are scared of blaming, and you'd get that in small, not all small organizations, let's be clear about that, right? But organizations where the level, they're not risk aware, the cybersecurity posture is very low, their awareness is almost minor, then you'll find out that, oh, is the secretary, she clicked on that link, and that's why we got infected. So blaming employees for mistakes is an hallmark. Cybersecurity can be seen as a blocker to productivity, particularly when the resources are limited, right? So they may say, oh, we want to run a new project, we're deploying a new application, and then they want to do a cybersecurity assessment. That would take time. It would impact our ability to go to market quickly. So cybersecurity can be seen, or is usually seen from my experience, as a blocker to productivity, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Yes, cybersecurity, that process can delay your time to market, but at least it would allow them to produce or to introduce a secure solution to the market. So cybersecurity should not be seen as that. And the last thing, and this is key, that small businesses make, is they see cybersecurity as an expense. And that is why that expense, they put it on that side, they put it on the IT, is an expense. But of course, it's not an expense, right? When you begin to look at the value cybersecurity has to the profit line, you may not see it. You won't see it physically, you will not see the bottom line, but think about the opportunity cost of you getting hacked. If you get hacked and you've lost millions of pounds, then you know that cybersecurity is not an unnecessary expense. So let's go to the next slide. Do you want to take the next one? Okay, practical ways to build a cyber risk aware culture. You know, and we call this, we say culture change starts with small, consistent action. It may be small, but be consistent about it. And that would ensure that you have the desired change. So what we are suggesting here, we're not saying go and start a risk management program. We're not saying that. We're saying let's start small. Let's start small. Let's have short and regular awareness session. Do that tomorrow. So if you're a small business and you want to build a cyber risk aware culture, let's start small. Let's do a cybersecurity awareness session with your team, right? Do phishing simulations, right? Do phishing simulations, and then build into that reporting so that when an employee inadvertently click on that phishing simulation, let there be an opportunity for them to report themselves. And once they do that, don't blame, educate them. Once they have that level of education, they become more confident. They understand the risk and the impact of that risk to the business. Once they understand that, then you'll find that they'll be more forthcoming. One, they will be aware, they'll be careful, and should if they inadvertently make a mistake, then you have a high chances of them coming to confidently self-report. You have security champions in teams, and this is key, you know, particularly in small organizations. These are low-hanging fruit. Get security champions in team. Someone who has special interest in cybersecurity, maybe they know a bit more. Identify security champions. So in your HR department, for example, maybe you in that team, you have 5 members of team. Identify someone, empower them, and let them then filter that training to other members of the team. Again, these are small, cost-effective change that you can make. Cyber tips in internal cyber tips in, sorry, you've gone for the, was that one? Cyber tips. Hold on. I think you've got, yeah, cyber tips in internal communication, right? You need to send that out. So every so often you have a publication, you make sure that you're sharing cyber tips with your employee in their comms. It then makes it more, it increases their awareness. And of course, incorporate cyber into onboarding. And this is very important. So if you have a new member of staff, no matter their grade within the organization, make sure you imbibe or incorporate cyber training. Make sure they're aware. It doesn't have to be extensive training, but let them know what is acceptable. Let them know that it's okay for them to report incidents. And once you do all this, then you are on your way to building a risk-aware culture within your organization. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think the presentation has gone up. Just give me 2 seconds. Let me try and bring it back up again.
Okay.
Share screen.
So yes, while you're trying to bring that up, well done, guys. You've just been fantastic so far. We've got questions coming in already, and I want to encourage others to start sending in their questions while we are still in presentation stage. So please bring in your questions. The speakers will be willing to and anxious to actually answer your questions. And I think that is very important. So please do that.
Okay. Yeah, and if there of course if there are any questions that are coming in as well, I'm sure we can sandwich those questions in. Okay. Bolaji, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we've been talking about what a cyber risk-aware culture looks like. We've spoken about what a strong cyber risk-aware culture looks like. We've spoken about the consequences of not having a cyber risk-aware culture. And of course, Tunde has just spoken about some practical steps that can be taken to ensure that small to medium businesses have or are able to implement cyber risk-aware culture. Now, I guess one of the things that one of the questions you probably be asking yourself is, how can we as a small business measure what our culture looks like? How can we convince ourselves or assure ourselves that the small steps that Tunde has spoken about will potentially have an effect, right? And so what we've done here is try to come up with some very few high-level metrics that can be used by small to medium-sized businesses to kind of measure their path on that journey to achieving a culture that is strong from a risk awareness perspective. So one of the things that, and this doesn't just apply to small businesses, by the way, this applies applies to most organizations, is trying to understand what we refer to as the click rates. So I spoke about phishing exercises, where we send, or phishing simulation is what we call it, where we send a number of phishing emails, of course, simulated phishing emails to employees within an organization. And the whole objective here is to try and identify users within the organization who might need that additional training. So every now and then we'll invite employees within the organization to come and sit cybersecurity training and awareness courses. And these courses are usually geared to helping our employees understand what threats look like, what color these threats are, what shape or form or sizes they come in, which then means, of course, when these dodgy looking emails land in their inboxes, they're able to identify them and, of course, take the appropriate steps to protect the organization. But of course, as we all know, we're humans, right? People, no matter how much training you give them, people will always kind of deviate from what the norm is. Okay, so we send out these phishing email, these simulations every now and then, of course, the expectation is that, say we've had a end of quarter one, we've trained all the employees, or we've done this awareness campaign. And of course, the expectation is that all of our employees now have a thorough understanding of phishing emails and what they look like. What then happens is, after every quarter, you come and measure the success rate. So say you've sent out 100 phishing simulated emails. End of quarter one, the click rate, say it's 15%. So 15% of employees within the organization have clicked on that link or have downloaded the attachment. Okay, that's our benchmark. That's our starting point. So we then we then enroll these users who failed the phishing test, and of course other users within the organization, into another campaign. So we have this other campaign, we get them to come and sit at usual training. Then we perform the same phishing exercise at the end of quarter two. At the end of quarter two, the expectation is that the number of clicks, or the click rate, will drop. Now, if your click rate drops, then that is an indication that your cybersecurity training and awareness is effective. By the way, cybersecurity training and awareness is a control in the cybersecurity space. So end of quarter two, it dropped from 15% to maybe 13%. End of quarter three, after the whole exercise, you've performed the whole exercise, end of quarter three, it drops from 13% to 7%. Then, of course, that's an indication or a measure of the fact that those controls are operating effectively. But let's look at the reverse. So end of Q1, the click rate is 5%. End of Q2, the click rate increases to 7%. End of Q3, it jumps up to 15%. That, of course, is an indication that something is wrong. So the expectation is that after every training session, after every awareness campaign, that your users will have a better understanding of what a phishing email looks like, and they will not fall for it. But if we're seeing an increase in the click rate, then that's an indication that something is wrong somewhere. And usually it might be a case of the training itself, the training module needs to be refreshed because it's maybe too boring and they don't understand, and they're not understanding what the message is in the training module, or something else needs to be revamped. So again, of course, you need to consult our training academy people and then say, hey, this is not working. We need to do something about this. And of course, that is one of the ways by which we measure whether our cyber risk aware culture is operating as it should. Incident reporting rates. Today's kind of alluded to a type of role within the organization that is meant to be reporting, but they haven't reported because they're scared, right? What we want is the ability for incidents to be reported. Now, if we've gone from a position where incidents are not reported, but we've had a number of awareness campaigns within the organization, and people now understand that I am in a position where I can report an incident without the fear of reprimand or repercussion, and all of a sudden you see that there are no incidents being reported to a ton of incidents are being reported. And now one of the things we tell people within organizations is, even if you suspect it's an incident, but you're not sure whether it is a real incident, please report it. By doing so, you will enable the experts to do the necessary analysis, conduct the necessary investigations, and they will then determine whether this is a true analysis, or this is a true incident, or whether it's a false positive. But the expectation is that everybody within the organization should be empowered to report incidents. So, of course, when we see an increase in the number of incidents, then we can fully and confidently say that our culture is cyber risk aware culture is improving. Training participation. Now, some organizations do not make your cybersecurity training mandatory. I've been in organizations where it's not mandatory. In fact, some contractors, so in some of the one organization that I worked in the past, contractors are not enrolled in their cybersecurity training and awareness programs, right? For whatever reason. Now, when you think about it, if I am a contractor within an organization and I have no knowledge of what a phishing email looks like, and a phishing email lands in my inbox, and I click on the link in that phishing email, then of course I've exposed that organization to a potential cyber breach, right? So invariably, what we want is a position where everyone, including the guy right at the top, the CEO, is enrolled and almost enforced to participate in at least one or two cybersecurity training programs, right? So one of the things, of course, one of the measures is to ensure that your employees are enrolled, they participate in your training and awareness programs. And of course, after those training awareness programs, they're made to sit a small quiz. Usually those quizzes are usually about maybe 5 to 10 questions. And of course, the expectation is that they have to score a certain percentage before they can be deemed to have passed that module. And these are kind of the things that we'll be looking at, organizations should be looking at, especially the small to medium-sized businesses that don't have the resources that the big organizations have, to ensure that they position themselves in such a way that they're not exposed to the threats that emanate from the internet. Now, MFA adoption. MFA, for those who don't know, stands for multifunction. So and I went blank for a second. Multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication. Yes, thank you. Now, multi-factor authentication is something that most people on this call would not necessarily know about, but you use in your day-to-day activities. So you want to log on to your banking app, you'll be required to put in your username, your password, and sometimes it might be a text message that comes into your phone. You might be required to use an authenticator on your phone that generates a code that you then have to add to the authentication sequence that then allows before you're allowed to use to log on to your banking app. So again, one of the easiest ways, or maybe not the easiest, because when it comes to the implementation of technologies, some of the small to medium-sized businesses might struggle, especially from a funding perspective. One of the most effective ways to address some of the cyber breaches that organizations have experienced in the past is to ensure that multi-factor authentication is rolled out. And usually doesn't take that much, to be honest. So an organization or a small business that has adopted multi-factor authentication have rolled it out to the employees and adopted it such that to be able to access sensitive information or sensitive systems, the employee will need MFA, then that would definitely be a good measure of an organization that is continually demonstrating a cyber risk aware culture. And so all of these factors, and this, by the way, is just a snippet of the things that the kind of measures that we would usually be looking out for to understand the security posture of an organization, right? Of course, if we had to list all the metrics that we will be intending to see, then yes, we'll be here all night. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Tunde, I'll take this one, then you can take the next one. Okay, so we talk about real business benefits, and I think we've kind of alluded to some of them already, right? But it goes without saying that any organization that rolls out the things that we've spoken about in the last few slides are bound to become more resilient to cyber attacks. And when we talk about resilience, we're not talking about just being secure, right? We're talking about organizations that are not just secure, but are able to withstand any form of operational disruption, right? And that's very important. There are some cyber criminals whose sole ambition is not to come and steal data, but is to come and cause some level of disruption. So you hear about websites that have been owned, quote and unquote, owned, right? What they want to do is go onto an organization's website and deface it. And of course, it gives them bragging rights. So they go onto their forums and then say, hey, guess what I did today? I completely defaced the website of that organization. It was my doing. And of course, you know, they get hailed, they get applauded for something that they've done. And so when it comes to business benefits, resilience, operational resilience is definitely one of the key things that a small business will benefit from implementing some of the controls that we've spoken about. Reduced risk exposure. So we've spoken about risk time and time again during the course of this presentation. Any organization, especially the small to medium-sized businesses that are able to reduce their risk exposure, right, are the ones that will remain in business for a long time to come. I spoke about the haulage company, and that's just one example, by the way, of the haulage company that had been in existence for over 160 years. And in the twinkle of an eye, has become non-existent because they were attacked. They suffered a ransomware attack. They couldn't afford to pay the ransomware, or the ransom, I should say. And of course, the cyber criminals decided that until that ransom was paid, they were not going to release the keys that were used to encrypt the organization's infrastructure. And of course, they went under, right? So the exposure to such events gets reduced. There will be a reduced number of incidents. And of course, one of the things that we said, and I think Tunde kind of mentioned this and honed in upon it, is the fact that incidents are reported very quickly. This, of course, will mean that the time to identify those incidents and try and fix them will be reduced, which, of course, ultimately then reduces the potential of operational disturbances and eventual demise of the business, right? And of course, it goes without saying, right? Increased customer trust. Tunde mentioned the fact that there was an organization that was breached, that he had an account with, and of course, one of the very first things he did was move his account away from that organization. And this happens to a lot of people. If you have an account, and I'm going to use a bank here. So you have a bank account, or you have an account with a bank, and that bank gets attacked. You know, they suffer a data breach. Your details, your personal details, your date of birth, your national insurance number, you know, all of your personal details that you can think about have been stolen as part of that data breach. I'm sure that your confidence in such an organization will be very low. And one of the things that you potentially will do is say, hey, you know what? Close my account. I don't want to do business with you guys again. But an organization that is able to demonstrate that, hey, we take cybersecurity very seriously. The message of a cyber risk aware culture is evangelized properly within an organization. That will definitely lead to an increased trust in their customers. And of course, these are just some of the real benefits that a small business are bound to enjoy if they were to do the things that we've kind of spoken about already. Okay, Tunde, I'll let you take this one, and then
Okay, we'll take. So this is just happy to know this is the last slide, the last or the penultimate slide. Now, the key takeaways, and we've been on this now for about an hour now, an hour and 30 minutes. So the question is, what do we take away from here? Particularly, we may have business owners who are here, or people who are aspiring to have their own business, or people who are going to consult for that business like we do. The key thing, and we've said this a number of times tonight, cyber risk is a business risk, or what we call an enterprise risk. So cyber risk is a business risk. The small company should realize that. If it's not a business risk, some of them will put under IT. It should never be an IT risk. It's a business risk. Once businesses begin to understand that cyber risk is a business-owned risk, and that risk needs to be mitigated, needs to be treated, to identify, assess, treated, and then monitored over time. Once you do that, then that is an indication that the organization is a cyber risk aware organization. The next thing is culture matters more than tools. You can spend thousands of pounds investing in sophisticated tools and technology. If the culture is missing, and the culture we're talking about here is that cyber risk awareness, or cyber risk aware culture. If that is missing, then you might as well just go home and close the shops, right? So the culture matters, and the culture we're talking about here is of being of risk aware, not averse. Averse might be your reluctance to accept or even engage in any risk. So that is important. People are the first line of defense. They will always be the first line of defense, because people are also the weakest link. So, and that is why your training, your training, your security awareness training should be driven towards and geared towards the needs of your employee. Once the people are devoid of this weakness, this vulnerability, clicking on links, bad habits, once you are able to devoid the staff or the people of that, then you'll rest assured that even your threat actor, there will be nothing to exploit within the organization. So people are and should be regarded as the first line of defense. Let your employee be able to help identify risk, assess the risk, manage or treat the risk, and then monitor the risk over time. So if a member of your staff is not able to self-report a risk, then you're asking for trouble. The next thing I'd like to talk is leadership. Bolaji said something, right? And, and we always say this, leadership drives behavior. And that's what we call the top-down approach. It should filter down from the leaders in the organization to the last person within the organization. So if the leaders have a carefree, I don't care attitude to security, then you've lost the battle. And let me share this. I remember this is a long time ago when I used to be an IT manager. The principal of the college, oh my word, she hated cybersecurity, right? Each time, I had a row with her because she wanted the screensaver to the one that automatically locks the screen when she wants that turned off, because she comes back, she hates, and that's the principal of the college. She doesn't like the idea of her having to relog in to unlock the screen. That's how bad cybersecurity. And what she said to me, she said, "You almost didn't get the job," when she interviewed me, because I said that I would implement that. I was asking if they have any policy, and I would implement that. Right? I would lock everything down. Those were her words. Right? Although I didn't say that I would lock everything down, but that's our interpretation. So now, but straight away in that organization, the there was no existence of cybersecurity, because they know that people at the top don't care. So any business, be it small size, medium size, a business, particularly small to medium, leadership drives that behavior. And the last thing that I'm going to leave you with tonight is small changes create big risk reduction. We should be in the business of identifying risk. It has to be done, reducing that risk to a level that is acceptable to the organization, which we call the risk appetite. We should be able to reduce that risk to that level that the organization is willing to take, and maybe a bit more, which is a risk tolerance. So if you are in an organization, one of the things that you need to be learning is what is the risk tolerance of the organization, what is the risk appetite of the organization. And these points here are the things that the key takeaway from tonight's session. Thank you so much. I'll hand over to Bolaji, who would do talk business. Bolaji, or do you want to take this, or you want me to take it?
No, I can take this. I can take this.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes, at this point, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us yap on about cyber risk-aware culture. We hope we've been able to do some level of justice to the topic. And of course, we'll be willing to take your questions at the end. But just a little bit about Mayatech Consulting, struggling to get my words out here. So what is Mayatech Consulting? It's simply a cybersecurity consulting firm. We have a number of cybersecurity offerings. We have a number of law firms. Tunde has mentioned this already, that we do a little bit of consulting for. So basically, we target the small to medium-sized organizations who will typically struggle to have a grip or get an understanding of what their cybersecurity posture looks like. We go in, we help identify areas of weaknesses, and of course, we come up with a number of recommendations that help close out those weaknesses. And I guess one of the what's the way to put it now? One of the offerings of the consultancy itself is the training academy. So we, apart from the consulting itself, we have what is known as Mayatech Academy, where we offer a number of cybersecurity training modules. And basically what we do, and I think Tunde said this right at the very beginning, that he's very passionate about teaching. And I think this slide, his introductory slide, talks about him trying to introduce a lot of people to the world of cybersecurity. And that is exactly what our training academy is all about. We try and bring as many people as possible into this world of cybersecurity. It's a very big, vast, and wide growing profession for a number of reasons. The adoption or the arrival of AI has increased the potential for, or actually, let me rephrase that. The introduction of AI has now meant that the attack surface has just gone from 0 to 100. Yeah. And basically, this means that organizations that previously felt that they were secure are no longer secure. So one of our objectives and our missions is to train as many people as possible such that they can help organizations in their defense against these attacks that we've been talking about. Okay. So how to contact us? We have our email address, which is info@mayatechconsulting.com. Please feel free to visit our website, which is www.mayatechconsulting.com. There's a plethora of information on our website in terms of our offerings from a cybersecurity perspective. And of course, if you were to go to the Academy page of the website, you'll obviously be able to see the training, the cybersecurity training modules that we have on offer. And of course, if your preference is to speak to somebody, you have these two numbers on screen that you can use to reach out to us. And I am pleased to say that after an hour and a half, this brings us to the very end of today's session. So at this point, I'll hand over to Dr. Lawal to champion the Q&A part of this delivery.
Thank you very much. That was good. That was great. Very impactful actually with the level of knowledge you have shared. And I'm sure participants, viewers and listeners will have, things to take home from this. And I know that the awareness has increased, and I'm sure that some actions will have been noted, to take place as a result of this. So well done, gentlemen. We're so proud and excited to have you. What an honor to share from your wealth of experience and, of course, your expertise. So thank you so much. Now, I've got a few questions, and I'm sure some of them you've touched on actually towards the end of it, particularly, and some you have actually addressed during the course of your presentation. Having said that, I'm still obliged to let us see what the questions are. And then, of course, if you have one or two things to add to it, that would be great. So I'm going to be taking this question from the order that they came in. And the first one is talking about, and I'm putting it on the screen as well so that you can see them as well. Let me put this one here. No. Okay, so I think that's great. Yes, the first question is, as cybersecurity analyst, this is an analyst himself. He said, how do I persuade my board or leadership to begin to view cyber risk as business risk and not an IT problem? I know you've talked about that, and Mr. Falode, stressed on the importance of the distinction or the separation of cybersecurity from IT situation. So, do you have one more words to add to that for Mr. or for the questionnaire, just to know what can he do to ensure that he can entrust his or persuade his board or his leadership to see things differently from today?
Sure. Tunde, do you want me to take this?
Yeah, you can take it.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's an absolutely fantastic question, a very great question. And I think one of the key things that we need to understand here is that the board, in most organizations, do not understand cyber risk. Okay, what they understand is business risk, and I think we've touched upon this briefly. But invariably, what we're saying here is the board do not understand. They don't understand technical abstract. They don't understand what your definition of a cyber attack is. Now, the way
you've muted yourself, Bolaji.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Go on now. We can hear you now.
Okay,
we can hear you now.
So, okay, cool. Thank you. So, one of the best ways to get your board interested in cybersecurity or cyber risk is to translate that cyber risk into business speak. That's all they understand. They understand loss of revenue. They understand business disruption. These are the kind of things that the business, your board will understand. They don't typically understand cyber. So the best way to get them interested is to say, so rather than say, we are at risk of suffering a cyber breach, you will translate that to mean, you translate that to say there's a potential that we can lose money because of this, or there's a potential that we might not be able to operate because of these reasons. So once you translate that cyber risk to something that the business understands, loss of money or loss of income. Look at Marks and Spencer's, for example. Apart from the fact that they suffered that data breach, I think for every day that they were not able to sell because of their systems that were down, I can't remember what the value was, but over a period of time, it ran into millions, tens of millions. So if you were to tell your board that the consequences of not having a robust cyber risk aware culture, or the consequences of not having robust security solutions in place is loss of revenue, reputational damage, and of course you then need to explain what reputational damage means. The damage to our brand, which then means that there's a potential that we might lose customers. These are the things that your board will understand, and once you then start breaking it down in this language that the board understands, they'll start taking you seriously. And we've seen this work time and time again.
Yeah.
They don't want to know about
0 day, zero day for the
zero day vulnerability.
vulnerability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It means nothing to them.
It
But
doesn't
once you
to them.
translate what 0 day vulnerability means in terms of business impact,
Fact, yes.
then they'll begin to understand you. I hope that has helped.
That's very
Can I add to that actually?
Yeah, please.
I was there's a on LinkedIn, and there's a guy who did a write-up, and on that write-up is a CISO, and then he said he was making a presentation to the board. In fact, exactly this, and he said in that presentation he created 5 slides. He said, and then one, there's a risk of 0 day vulnerability. He listed number 2, the firewalls. He said by the time he got to number 3, the CISO said, whoa. The SEO said, whoa. Stop that. We don't have a clue of what you're talking about.
Yes.
Can you then translate into business? And then he went back, and then he then translated into business. That is right. Okay, we understand that. And then what should happen is businesses have their bucket of risk, business risk. What you need to do as a technical person is to map that, so that cybersecurity risk into those buckets, and the business will understand that. And that's what you need to do. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That's good. And I believe the questionnaire from YouTube, we're satisfied with that. Yes, we have another one which I believe you've touched on, talking about how do you measure, whether your organization's cyber awareness efforts are working. So how do you test that to ensure that what is in place is actually worth it?
I can take that. Or do you want to take that, Bolaji?
No, go on.
Yeah. So I think I should have taken this because that's Bolaji, but I'll take it anyway. So it's what we call something metrics in our space. Metrics, and metrics is basically a measure of a performance. So if you're let's look at phishing exercise, for example, right? Phishing exercise, when you carry out a phishing campaign or simulation, you want to measure the reaction of your work population or the staff to their reaction of their click rate. And if you remember, Bolaji did mention click rate. So metrics are what you then gather. For example, you can say that the campaign that was run last month, certain percentage of members clicked on this, and then you do that over time. So you do that maybe first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and hopefully if you have a functioning program, then you should, based on that metric, you should see a drop. Now if you're not seeing a drop, the downward trend, and it's going upward, then you can say it's effective or it's not effective. So metric is what you would typically use, and we have different metrics for all these items that you then present to your management. I don't know if Bolaji wants to.
No, I think you've done it justice. I think if I was going to add anything at all, it's the type of metrics. So we have key risk indicators, KRIs. We have key control indicators, which are KCIs, and of course we have KPIs, which are key performance indicators. But yes, I think you've done it justice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, gentlemen, that was good. And another one from YouTube as well, from one of our participants and viewer. How big? Now, I think this is a very important question here, particularly when it comes to your what you're talking about. How big a risk is? Bring your own device. Some organizations are fond of doing that. Being practiced by some organization. How can this be risk? How can this risk be mitigated? Yes. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Take it, Bolaji.
Okay. So yeah, BYOD is definitely a very big risk, especially if there is no real policy in place to manage BYOD. And I think that's what it boils down to, right? Any organization that encourages BYOD should have the necessary policies and the controls specifically in place to manage the risks that come with, that bring your own device policy. Now, there are a number of risks that you can point to. Data leakage being one of the very big ones, right? So if I am allowed to bring my device into the organization to facilitate me doing what I need to do for the organization, but there are no controls in place that prevents me from downloading the organization's data onto my personal device and walking away with it, then that in itself is a massive risk, right? It goes without saying. One of the other risks is I was going to say something and I lost the lack of visibility, right? So again, if I bring my own device and there are no controls that prevent, so let me take a step back. So say I have a device that has already been compromised, right? But I'm not aware because I don't have the necessary tools on my device to alert me to the compromise. And then, of course, I bring that device into work. I plug it into the organization's network. Then you can imagine that the bad actors that have taken control, that have compromised my device, will now use my device as a conduit into the organization's network. And then you can imagine what's the gates to the treasures that will be open to them as a result of that. So that in itself is a massive risk. So where there's a lack of visibility, lack of monitoring, it becomes a big issue, right? In terms of how to mitigate the risk, there are a number of things that can be done, right? There's this thing called I think it's MDM.
Yeah, MDM, yeah, device management, yes,
MDM,
device
mobile
management,
device management,
mobile
right?
device management, yes.
Yeah, one of the ways to ensure that BYOD is your BYOD policy is up to scratch is to have MDM in place, which then means that the organization is able to manage. So you can tell personnel, employees to bring in their own devices to do their work, but as long as you have the ability to manage those devices, then that risk becomes mitigated. So a very good example is you bring your own device in. I bring my laptop into work, but I'm not able to connect directly. What I have to do is log on to a virtual machine that the organization has control of. So that virtual machine is like a container. So even if I download documents, right, I'm downloading it onto that virtual machine, not onto my personal machine, which of course means that I'm not able to steal that organization's
data,
right? And so so BYOD is definitely a big risk. But it can be managed, and of course, if it's managed properly, then yes, it's not a bad policy to have.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think it's one of those things that while you're talking, that I've seen organizations asking all the employees to, yes, they can bring their device, but it has to be encrypted. It has to have some security. Maybe you mentioned of multi-factor authentication process. All those things will have to be installed on your computer if you have to bring it. So, and I think that's one of these ways by which you mitigate against it. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, moving on, we have two more or three more. This is also, this is saying that, well, the startup businesses with 1 to 5 employees, for instance, are mostly at risk of cyber attacks and are less capable of investing in cybersecurity, which you have mentioned. I know you have addressed that, but how do they still build a cyber secured infrastructure?
Yeah, do you want to take that, Tune?
Yeah, I'll take that. So I think the key thing, and we've said this before, is yes, we know that the small companies are limited by their funds, but what they can do is they can save themselves from employing a cybersecurity professional, right? Full-time. You can get an organization like us to help them design a robust, secure infrastructure, putting security policies, again, these policies controlled in place, and then managing that way. You see, small companies anyway wouldn't have the resources to build their own. They wouldn't have the resources to build their own infrastructure, but they can use cloud services, right? But of course, you can't just put your workload in any cloud service. that is where you need the help of a cybersecurity professional to carry out what we call maybe secure by design, to look to ensure that, one, to assess that cloud provider. Are they secure, for example? Do they have latest policies and procedures in place? Do they have, when was the last pen test carried out? All those security questions that a huge company would go and employ £120,000 a year cybersecurity professional. Get a company like ours to help you set that up, right? Do with a fraction of the cost, I would say, but to help you set that up. And that's what I would say. So a small company, you should have a small cyber solution that can help you set that up. The wrong way of doing it is to say that we don't have the money, and then you go you blindfold yourself in putting your user data in a cloud somewhere in India or in China where you don't have visibility of, and then you pray, go through a fasting period for just to protect those data. It's not going to work, right? So and that's the question to that. So yes, you don't have money, but you can engage small company like we target. We've seen that gap, right? And that's the gap we're trying to bridge, and they should take advantage of that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's actually good, and that's where your own intervention comes in to help small businesses to make sure they can still be in business, and while they are protecting themselves, their business, and their customers or clients. Thank you so much. I take this from Facebook. You say, what simple process or habit, and I'd like to talk about the habit, can significantly reduce cyber risk? Not necessarily the policies now, but let's look at the habit aspect of it in an organization. What little habit do you think could really help to reduce the cyber risk?
So I'll take this one very quickly, and I'm sure Tunde will have something to say to this. One of the things that we mentioned during the course of today's discussion is MFA, right? Multi-factor authentication. That has to be one of them for sure. Things like passwords, having secure, robust passwords. And when we say having secure passwords, we're talking about ensuring that employees, you have a policy where passwords are not reused. You ensure that employees use password managers to create secure passwords. Tunde mentioned his IT manager or the principal of the college who didn't want screensavers. Little things like this. There's very small things that can be done, but have usually big impact, right? Screensavers, definitely. One of the things that we've spoken about, training, awareness, phishing. These things would always make a big difference, even though they're simple things. The impact of security training, the impact of security awareness, honestly, from my perspective, can never really be measured. It is when a breach happens that you begin to understand how well security training, how well security awareness, what roles these things play. So simple things like that, training your users, ensuring that they understand. And when we talk about security training and awareness, it's sometimes we attribute this to the person's function in the workplace. But when you train your employees on how to identify security threats, that becomes part and parcel of that person. And then it's outside of work. Somebody tries to scam them, trying to take advantage of their WhatsApp, take control of their WhatsApp, for example. Instantly they know that, right, this is not real. This person is trying to scam you. Somebody is trying to con you to do a transfer from your bank account to another account. So little things like this have, serious and big impacts that sometimes we do not recognize for what they are. So in answering that question, in trying to answer that question, what simple policies or habits can reduce cyber risk. These things that I've spoken about will definitely help reduce cyber risk.
Well, thank you so much. When you are talking, a few things come in my mind. Let me just say, particularly when it comes to habit, we're fond of, and I'm not sure if you do because you are cybersecurity conscious. We're fond of getting into some environment, public space, airport, train station, and then you just quickly want to do some work. You put up your device, and then you log into the Wi-Fi within that area. And then you start to quickly send the email, official email, do all those things. And I believe you are actually opening your device as a gateway to using somebody else's web internet to connect to the office world. I think that's a very good habit that we need to stop. If you can, you have your own device, have your internet, and also somebody quickly coming to you to say, even in the office, I couldn't get to my desk. Can I quickly use your device to send email or to check something? You don't know what they're checking. You don't know where they're logging into. I think it's a little habit that we need to stop as well.
Yes,
and of course, you mentioned, screen cover and all that, which is very important because if you're getting out of your desk for a few minutes, either you close your system or you find some, or you unplug it or you log out or something. You got to do something about those things. So, what other things? Things like that, I think will be, Go ahead.
And in addition to that, when you said screensaver, you're right. And we'll go beyond that. We have in cybersecurity where we say clear desk policy, right? Because it's not only digital, right? You can have your confidential information on a piece of paper. So it's just your general cyber hygiene around you within the organization. And that is why organizations have clear desk policy. Right? Clear your desk. You don't have any, even printing and then leaving confidential information on the printer. Those are the little things that you can do. Get yourself clear those, if you like, those bad habits. You've mentioned the airport. I can put a dummy odd point there and get people to connect, and I can begin to sniff their network. Right? There are a lot of bad people out there, and that people should be conscious of that.
And one more thing that just came to mind is, I think people should stop the habit of accessing their personal emails from the official, because you are in the office and then you want to check your personal email or your personal stuff and you are logging into, because you can ask. I think these are habits that we can stop to mitigate against all this, to reduce the risk. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I'll going back to that point, an organization, again, you're right. And from an organization perspective, most organizations would stop you from accessing your private email at work as well. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think we have one more question. Just to acknowledge CY watching from Akure in Nigeria, joining us. You're welcome. Yes, I think this is the last question I have here. No, so no, I think I have two more. So this one says that, what has been the impact of, I think Mr. Bolaji mentioned it when he was concluding, and that's actually spot on. When he was talking, this question came in. And what has been the impact of AI on cybersecurity in the business world, which you said that now it is even more important to look into that area of cybersecurity with the continuous and growing impact of AI and its agentic apparatus. Do you have one thing to say about that before I move to the next one?
Yeah, I can say something very quickly. Tunde, do you want to go?
No, go for it, Bolaji.
So the one thing I'll say is that AI is a massive game changer. And I think everybody recognizes that, right? AI, massive game changer. Now, AI in terms of, so the question was, what has been the impact of AI on cybersecurity in the business world? Right. The impact is, when you talk about a double-edged sword.
The double-edged sword,
So I've been speaking about phishing. And so, going back maybe a couple of years ago, or maybe 3-4 years ago, before AI became a big thing, one of the things that we used to say to employees is that it's very easy to spot a phishing email, right? They're usually littered with typographical errors, the grammatical errors. So you could see those emails and you say, right, this is definitely a phishing email because of the way the email has been constructed. Now, AI is taking all of that away. So the cyber criminals are now known to use AI to craft their emails, right? And these emails look as authentic as they possibly can be, right? We know about deepfake, right? You see some deepfake videos, and then you think, and you know where that comes into play is that deepfakes have now been used to scam teams, finance teams. They've been used to scam senior executives because the executives think they're speaking to people that they know, not knowing that they're speaking to an AI generated recording. So then you need to go on mute.
Yeah, yes.
One of the other things is that in the past, we had technology that will identify malware very quickly. Now, AI has been used to generate malware that makes it so difficult for technologies to detect. So malware can easily evade detection. Now, on the other side of the fence, right, where AI has come into the picture, the response time for we cybersecurity professionals has just increased heavily. So the type of analysis that we'll have to do in the past, manual analysis that will take hours, in some cases days, is now being progressed and speeding up very quickly. So analysis can be done, in double quick time. AI is now being used as part of. So one of the things that the tuners of this world do is the threat modeling, threat assessment, which would normally be a manual, sometimes a mundane activity, trying to understand data flows, trying to understand what systems are speaking to which systems, trying to understand what data is flowing from one system to another. Now we have AI-driven threat modeling tools that all you need to do is punch in a few parameters and it will spit out a model for you straight away and say, these are the threats that you need to consider because when you're looking at these type of systems. So the impact of AI has just been phenomenal. But it's on both sides. The cyber criminals are taking huge advantage of AI to perpetrate their crime. But of course, the guys on the other side who have always been playing catch up anyway are now leveraging AI to increase their response times.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a game of, speeding up on both sides and see who catches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I've got one here. This is typical of, some location, if you like, or environment that cybersecurity needs to be, more awareness and maybe knowledge or training needs to be. You see, and that's part of Nigeria. So the awareness of cybersecurity risk is very low among small business, small medium business owners, particularly in Nigeria. What are the necessary steps to improve this?
Okay, and I'll take that. And I think awareness training, right? We can't overflog that. The other thing that we can do, again, is what we're doing tonight, but targeting Nigeria, right? Getting small business attending sessions like this, right? Hopefully that will change their mentality. And I think if you look at what we delivered tonight, it's when you see cyber risk as a business risk, right? Once they need to understand that. Once they understand that cyber risk ultimately, right? Yes, it's not an expense. Ultimately, would protect you, would protect your against financial loss. It's only when they begin to understand that they then begin to take cybersecurity serious within the organization. At the moment, cybersecurity is probably still an IT thing, and maybe that's the evidence. Maybe that is something that is peculiar to that region, but this part of the world or anywhere really, cybersecurity needs to be translated into the business risk, because if they come in and they introduce malware or ransomware, you might as well go home, right? You'll be forced to go home. And those doomsday kind of thing is what we need to be able to get the business leaders particularly SMB owners, to understand. It's not only in Nigeria, even in developed world as well. It's you know, but they begin to understand, and people like us and like what we're doing tonight, hopefully, would increase that well sought after or really highly needed awareness.
Yeah, well done, thank you. And I think the last one before we call it a day here is this. I'm not sure you can see it on the screen.
Yeah,
but,
we can see. Yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
how can okay.
It says, how can organizations strengthen their cybersecurity posture against third-party vulnerabilities? From the
I'll let Bolaji take this one.
From the example line from recent data breaches at M&S and Jaguar Land Rover.
I think that's another fantastic question, and this one actually we use as a scenario as part of our training. So we cover in our training academy, we cover third-party risk management, and the reason why we do that is because third-party risk management is not something that a lot of organizations have taken very seriously in the past. It has become very clear and very apparent that third-party risk needs to be understood very well and managed accordingly. Now, I'm going to pivot to Marks and Spencer, Jaguar Land Rover, Harrods, Co-op. You know, they all happened around about the same time. And the rumor is that they were all breached by the same threat actor. Now, to prevent ourselves from the threats that these third parties pose, one of the very first things that an organization must do is their due diligence against these third parties before they onboard them, right? And what are we looking for when we do this, when we perform these due diligence activities? One of the things that we're trying to say here is, this is what our security posture looks like. If we are going to engage a third party, that third party's security posture must be equal to or even better than ours.
Yes.
That's the long and short of the story. Where we try to engage a third party, and you will get this, you know, somebody in the business needs the services of a third party. We want to engage the third party. You've engaged the cybersecurity function to do that, perform the due diligence activities. The cybersecurity function have done their perform their activities, and then they say, this organization, if we onboard them, will introduce this, and this type of risk. But the business is insisting that we must go ahead because this engagement will help deliver, you know, whatever it is from a monetary perspective. And that's that usually is the problem, is trying to balance risk with the returns. So from a cybersecurity perspective, we would always say that where a third party has been identified as a high risk, for example, we're not saying we shouldn't onboard them, but what we're saying is that we should have some sort of remediation plan that addresses the risk that they will introduce. Okay, now we then onboard them. But of course, it's not a one-time activity. We don't onboard the third party and then say, this engagement has started, end of story. There has to be continuous monitoring depending on the categorization of that third party. So we normally categorize a third party as either low, medium, or high. A high-risk third party would need to be monitored more often compared to, of course, a low-risk third party. And very quickly, I know we've spent a lot of time here, but the way you would classify your third party that is coming to service your coffee machine in the office, right? The level of scrutiny on them will not be the same as the level of scrutiny you apply to a third party that is coming into your organization to develop software, but they will have access to your confidential data as part of that development. So the level of scrutiny will be different. And of course, that will then drive the level of assurance that is required. Now, in the case of Land Rover, Jaguar, and M&S, the third party was already onboarded. They've been doing business with these third parties for a long time, right? But one of the things, based on the information that is out there on the internet, that led to this, again, going back to what we've been talking about, it's phishing. One employee within those third parties, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but this is the rumor that is out. This is the information that is out there. Clicked on a phishing link, and this is what then exposed that third party to the attacker, who managed to take control of the third party's device, and then use that device as a conduit into Marks and Spencer, and of course were then able to then, in fact, in the case of Marks and Spencer, and I do apologize, I'm going to digress slightly here. In the case of Marks and Spencer, the adversary had been in Marks and Spencer's environment for at least a good couple of months. They'd been monitoring traffic, they'd been stealing data, and it was only after they were convinced that they'd stolen as much as they could that they now deployed their ransomware. Now, you think to yourself, why weren't there controls in place to try and identify these third parties whilst they were out there within the environment, scanning, stealing data and all the rest? So there are a number of things that an organization can do to prevent against the risk that third parties introduce. The very first one, like I said, due diligence activities is very, very important. The second one, monitoring. Continuous monitoring is absolutely important. Then, of course, as we've said over and over again during the course of this presentation, awareness training will always trump everything else, because the people in the organization will always be the weakest link. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I think that was great. I'm so excited that you have been able to do justice to this, and viewers and participants have been very happy about that because of the comments and remarks coming in. Somebody just dropped another nugget there that I think Dari said that one of the habits that people need to look into carefully is the scanning of QR code everywhere, anywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Particularly when it comes to promo, they are doing promo there, scan this scare, and then you just quickly take your scan and goes into your system, and then and then at the end of the day, the promo begins to promote your data everywhere.
Pretty much.
And somebody also said that the time was spent, which means they really enjoyed. CY from Nigeria says excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
David said excellent. Dari said brilliant. So I think, well done, guys. I mean, we can be here till tomorrow, talking about this, and because again of what you do and the energy you put into it, particularly the information you've been able to share tonight. We're so excited and happy and honored to have you guys. We know that you're always going to deliver anyway. And so we are very grateful and we're very happy. We keep doing what we are doing. But quickly, before we round up, I know you run training, and I know you do that on a regular basis. Is there any training you want to put out there for viewers to start to think about, or is there anything you have there that people can begin to search and see what they can benefit from? Yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I think thanks for two trainings that we would highly recommend. GRC. GRC stands for Governance, Risk and Compliance, and we've said this before. These are for people who are not technical. So there's some people who are transitioning or who are in between contracts. Maybe you are a project manager, business analyst. GRC, if you like, is a softer side of cybersecurity. So it's very easy for people to transition into GRC. We have good track records. A lot of our students, some of our students who are, we can see some of them who are on tonight who've gone through, or some of them are already working, and we're good at what we do. So we have a cohort. I think we have another cohort before the end of the month. Check our website. We not only do we do the offering, mentoring is our strength. The post-course support is our strength. You can do the course anywhere, but one thing that would assure you is the post-course support that you get from us. So you get two for the price of one. You've got myself and Bolaji. Between us, we've got over 50 or 60 years experience. So you have exposure to that. The other course, again, is security architecture, which we do very well. I'm a security architect of many years. So that has to account for something. So those are for people who either already in cybersecurity or in IT and want to transition into cybersecurity, but on the technical side, security architecture will be the course. On our website, check our website, details are there, our numbers are there. We have, I think on our website, we've got a course, GRC and security architecture happening before the end of this month. Check our website, and we do that every 5 weeks and space in between. So we look forward to seeing so many people join our classes. You will learn from the best. We will hold your hand and lead you on that journey on becoming another successful cybersecurity professional. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Well done. Thank you so much. Thank you. We must keep coming in. You know, Larry Lawal, a fabulous training. As a small business owner, I have learned a lot. Thank you so much for attending. And then another person said that thanks, Mr. Tunde and Mr. Ajayi, nice presentation. You know, Tunde Adebayo said, oh, nice. Well done, guys. And the smart digital CEO, I don't know what this means. Maybe you would know. Is it deal or no deal? I don't know what he wants to deal with.
Deal.
Smart deal.
I don't know what she's dealing with, but I think it will be a deal at the end of the day anyway.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
whatever it is. So thank you so much, everybody. Yes, you know, takeaway for me is that from what we have been able to discuss tonight and learn that this masterclass explored how cultivating a cyber risk-aware culture helps small businesses reduce human error, respond faster to threats, protect customer trust, and stay resilient. This is very important. I think somebody dropped in something quickly. It says a great forum as well. From another guy, Kenny, and then of course, you know, the deal person is also agreeing to us that it has to be a deal. So on that note of a deal, I think we've come to the end of today's masterclass, this month's masterclass. I mean, this is early February. We're expecting another, you know, episode towards the end of this month, and then of course will be another exciting and interesting, you know, informative training. Section of presentation. So we will always bring experts and professionals here to let us gain some things and then, of course, learn. So as we learn together, journey together in this Power Mind resource and gain resources that can help us not only in our personal progression, but also in our business and our growth. So, and of course, for leadership. So thank you so much. So I just want to thank you, our guest speakers. Thank you for your time. Thank you for parties. Thank you for being generous in what you have shared tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. And shout out to our guy behind the scene trying to make us good tonight. That is Ayo. Very, very grateful. So guys, to the participant, to the listener, to those who are live with us, and to those who will be watching the replay, you are equally welcome, and and we thank you. So thank you for attending and participating in this masterclass. We hope you found it thought-provoking and enlightening. The insight and strategy shared today can help you build resilience and adapt, enabling you to move forward even after facing significant challenges. The world needs the best version of you and your business. So if you have any question, comment, or inquiries, please visit our website at www.skillsmindset.com and leave us a message. One of our team members will reach out to you. And we also encourage you to subscribe and follow us on all our various platforms so you don't have to miss any of our episodes, our podcast, and our monthly masterclass. I therefore urge you to approach every moment, particularly this year, with courage and optimism. Keep pursuing your dreams with knowledge and unwavering passion. And until next time we meet, take care, stay focused, and goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The world is changing.
Thank you.
The world is changing, and so does change. But the mind has the potential to capture the changing world and make every change count. At Skillsminset, the leading global skills, strategy and corporate development company, we believe that the mind has the potential of The world is changing, and so does change. But the mind has the potential to capture the changing world and make every change count. At Skillsmindset, the leading global skills, strategy and corporate development company, we believe that the mind has the potential of transforming the man from obscurity to prominence. It's the reason why we make skills our business. At Skillsmindset, we stand for change, for development and for success. We challenge, we inspire and we lead. With Skillsmindset, your limit is just the beginning. Welcome to Skillsmindset. For more information about the great service we provide, please visit our website on www.skillsmindset.com or give us a call on our UK number on 07957 676 193. Better still, send us an email on info@skillsmindset.com. Skills Mindset. Challenging limits, maximizing opportunities.